start. Perfect. Hello, families. I'll let y'all get all settled in. Y'all are trickling in. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, families. Well, it is so good to see you all again on this lovely special edition of our October webinar. As always, my name is Justin Barker. I'm one of the associate directors in the Office of New Student and Family Programs. I'm sure y'all are so sick of seeing me by now, but I'm always so glad to come to you all. Hope you all are having a good evening. It is a rainy a Wednesday here in Durham. We are trying to stay as dry as possible, but we have an awesome webinar for you all this evening, so you all can learn all about our DukeEngage program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our DukeEngage team. So y'all take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Justin, I have a quick question. Are families able to say where they're dialing in from? Are they able to do that on the chat?
So they might can put in the
I would
chat.
love you to all just be like, "Hi, I'm so and so and such and such. I'm dialing in from, across the street in Durham or wherever," just to get a sense of like, where you all are. I
If
think
they
one of the
can't write
things
in the
that's
chat, they can write it in the Q&A.
Oh, see, this is so great. Thanks, Carrie. So it's just really great to get a sense of where our Duke people are from. I think sorry, I just started talking, which is what I do. I'm Christine Folch. I'm a faculty member at Duke. And in DukeEngage, I'm the faculty director of DukeEngage. So I have run student programs, and now part of my role is to support this happening for hundreds of students and working with many programs, et cetera. And I think one of my favorite things about Duke is where all your students come from. So I taught one of my undergrad class this morning, and it's just really one of the strengths of this institution is who's in the classroom, and the relationships that they build with each other. And as a faculty member, it's one of the things that makes me really love teaching at this school. So I'm asking you to tell us where you're from, because I mean, we've got people from both coasts in the United States and many points in between. And so it's just really great to have you. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about DukeEngage. I want to introduce the other people on the call. And I'll tell you a little bit about it, show you a video, and then we'll have a conversation and then open it up for Q&A. I'm hoping that this, we have an hour, but I'm expecting that it's, set time of night, where you might be rushing to get home, or where you might be rushing to get something on the table, or where if you're in California, you're rushing to leave the office, or work from home office. So I want to respect people's time. So as I said, I'm Christine Folch. I'm a professor in the Department of Cultural Anthropology, and I hold a secondary appointment at the Nicholas School of the Environment. My formal title is I'm the Backer Foundation Associate Professor of Cultural Anthropology, and I am the Peter Lang Director of DukeEngage. And I've been at Duke for 10 years, and I research energy politics and environment in Latin America. So I work on public policy in the southern part of this hemisphere. And I love what I get, when I talk about what it is that I do. I'm the kind of person who turned my hobbies and my obsessions, and some of them, into my job. And so I'm really lucky because I get to work on the things that I'm really interested in. And one of the things that's been really fun at Duke is getting to bring students into it and seeing what they add to the mix. So that's just a teaser. So here we have Elena. Can you introduce yourself? Thank you. Elena, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you all for coming to our DukeEngage family webinar. My name is Elena, and I am a program coordinator for DukeEngage, and I've most likely had the pleasure of meeting a lot of your students at lots of tabling sessions, info sessions, to recruit for our summer 2026 programs that are domestic and international. So thank you all so much for coming, and I'll be online for any questions.
One other thing to know about Elena she's in the office in Durham at this point, but she is one of our seasoned site coordinators. So she has actually worked with DukeEngage programs in Africa and South America working. So this is somebody who has a lot of experience sort of knowing what it's like on the ground and what the experiences are and the opportunities that students might have. So Elena's really brings that to the table. And Emily Arredondo, could you introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, of course. Hi, thank you everybody for being here. I'm a senior at Duke. I'm double majoring in environmental science and policy and international comparative studies with the concentration in Latin America. And I did my DukeEngage back in 2023, the summer of my freshman year with peer Professor Fulch. And then I also did this past summer a Chelsea de Caminada project in Dominican Republic. So if you're interested in what your students can also do post DukeEngage, I'm happy to talk about that later. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So let me tell you the short and sweet of what DukeEngage is. DukeEngage offers several opportunities, like Emily reported, but the heart of DukeEngage is summer programs that are 8 weeks long, that are faculty-led community engagements. So they are immersive experiences where students live in communities, work with community partners on key social issues. And so we send students across the world and across the street. And it is, as a faculty member, one of the highlights of what I get to do with students, because some of my best teaching has actually happened in these summer engagements. But I've also seen, through working with students, how students actually move the needle on some of the issues that we're working on. So to give you a visual of what that might look like, Justin has queued up about a 3-minute video that introduces what DukeEngage has already done. So Justin, if you could share it, that'd be great.
It's about getting students out of the university, out into the world. Part of the idea of DukeEngage was help students who have been in the university get out of the university and go find out what problems really look like. The problems you're going to need your intelligence to help solve in the world aren't homework problems.
Projects that we're developing, they're complicated. They're not trivial projects that we're undertaking.
As we're out here, we're pretty much learning every day. Like, as we see different things around us, we can ask questions, and Dr. Shaw has really been teaching us a lot.
The best thing about DukeEngage is that it does challenge you, and it's meant to challenge you.
When we urge students to undertake these experiences with humility, I'm reminded of something a student who participated in DukeEngage said many years ago. Not only did I realize that I didn't know the answers, but I also realized that I didn't know the questions.
You can't fully understand a place unless you really talk to the people and see the issues on the ground.
The real way to make an impact in the world is not for us to come in with our solutions. The real way to make an impact in the world is for us to come alongside and see how to help and learn.
The reason we partner with DukeEngage is because we know that we can expect really quality volunteers from them who will actually contribute during their time here. We're understaffed, and so having support even for a couple of months can be such a huge help.
DukeEngage, I think, is really about not so much what you do for the community, but what the community will do for you and shape your perspective. And so you have to be intentional and create a framework for that transformative experience to happen. You have to create the framework within yourself.
I will always carry this experience with me, and I'm so grateful that I had the chance to participate in DukeEngage.
DukeEngage definitely changed the way I look at the world.
It's been the most rewarding summer I've ever had.
I think DukeEngage is a part of the Duke experience you're not going to find anywhere else.
DukeEngage is one of the reasons I chose Duke, and it has exceeded all of my expectations.
Discovering the use of knowledge is education. DUKE. Your education becomes education the day you can use it.
Thank you for sharing that. So as we start talking, feel free to start jotting questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But I wanted to tell you a little bit from my perspective as a program director, as a faculty who developed a program with students. So we love taking students to South America, and Emily actually was in one of our programs. We love taking students because they open an ability to connect with communities as they serve with community partners working on the questions in our program had to do with sustainability, and how to address some of the intractable issues in Paraguay, in South America. But our programs, as you notice from the images, run all across the world. They're urban, they're rural, they're in, I don't know if we've sent anybody in Australia, and I don't think we've sent people to Antarctica, but that would be it. They have been all over the world, and they generally are balanced between domestic programs in the United States. One of the ones I'm most excited about this year is going to Asheville in Western North Carolina to work on Hurricane Helene damage. And it's an engineering focused project, but we also have projects that are focused on microfinance in West Africa, or working on education, or community restoration or habitat restoration. So we've got a whole range. Some of them are policy focused, some of them are education focused, some of them are very tech focused, some of them are very not tech focused. And as a faculty member, one of the things I really love about what I've been able to do with students is that we get to see the issues more broadly through the eyes of the students. So we are super delighted to have Emily on this call, who's an undergraduate who can help you hear kind of a little. I'm going to ask her some questions so that Emily, you don't have to figure out what to say. You could just sort of answer, and you can hear a little bit about what the experience was like for an undergraduate. So Emily, can you tell us a little bit about how it is that you chose what DukeEngage project to apply to?
Yeah. I remember looking through the list, and I was like, then as a prospective environmental science major, I was like thinking, okay, I want to do a program that's related to environmental science or environment adjacent. So I was considering different programs that were related to environmental issues. And then I was also thinking about doing something abroad. I was like, oh, I think it would be really cool to take my interest in environmental science abroad because of my interest in Latin America as well. And then I stumbled across DukeEngage Paraguay, and it was a perfect mesh of those two interests. And yeah, that's how I came to apply to DukeEngage Paraguay. And I think then you could apply to two programs, one abroad and one domestic, or it could be two domestic. But I decided to just apply to DukeEngage Paraguay when I did my DukeEngage.
Okay, so how much did you pay?
Zero.
That's right. So one of the things that's amazing about DukeEngage is that we have had donors fund an endowment for DukeEngage. And this is one of my favorite things about DukeEngage, because what it means is every student goes for free. And so there are some students whose families could pay for it, but actually they don't have to, right? Like this is available for anybody. And then there are some students whose families could not help pay for it, and those students also go. And so it's a chance to build a team of students that is very diverse on so many different levels. And so it shows the commitment that Duke has to sending their students not just to a world-class university, but to sending the world-class university out to the community. So I think one of the key themes of DukeEngage is that a world-class education means that students are in the world. And so DukeEngage makes that possible. So I think this is one of the most compelling aspects of it. I wish a program like this had existed when I was in college. So all of you adults and parents, you understand what I mean. I mean, this is an amazing opportunity, 8 weeks, fully funded. So students apply, they get interviewed by the program directors, and the program directors make a selection. So at this point, students can only apply to one program. We've had to do that just because of how we're trying to manage student interest. And the criteria for acceptance is different depending on the needs of the different programs. Sometimes they're very skills focused. Sometimes it has to do with sort of an openness and a willingness to work in a certain way. For me, we were interested in building teams that had a multiple sort of skills. So we had people who were engineers, we had people who were more social science, and people who were more humanities. All of our team members had to pass a Spanish language assessment for our program, because we were so insistent upon having our team members talk to everyone in Paraguay. So that was a really important component for our program, but not all programs have a language requirement. So your student can learn those details from the website. Emily, okay, so this was like after your first year of college. In fact, you were applying your freshman fall.
Yes.
So wow. So what are the advantages of going so early? There are some costs to it, right? So I'm sure there's some trade-offs, but why do you think it was useful for you to go kind of your first summer after Duke?
For me, it was a super transformative experience because I think besides the direct premise of the project on sustainable development and growth and all of these interests, I think it teaches you a lot of life skills as well. So like cultural competency, even though my family's from Latin America, I had never been to South America. So being in Paraguay and in Asunción in the capital city was like a whole new world for me, and like the different like foods, the language difference, the colloquial terms. So it teaches you a lot also about how to collaborate with others and with different peers coming from different backgrounds. So it's not just all people from the same major or the same interests. We had engineers as well, people that were doing public policy. So it was really cool. And I had never met any of the other team members there. So it was a really cool group. And yeah, and it also teaches you in terms of like living dynamics. We also we were separated by gender, so all the girls were in an apartment. And the guys were in their own house, so it teaches you also how to delegate household chores, making a grocery list. So all of these really practical things that I think set you up super well to go out and do other internships. So then when I went and did an internship in Washington, D.C., I felt super prepared to like tackle like the 9 to 5 kind of job. And then also when I did my Chelsea de Caminada in Dominican Republic abroad, I felt super prepared to also tackle the challenges that come with like being in a different international context and not in a familiar environment. So I think it really helps with just like so many things that are not just like academic or professional, but also just like life skills in general.
All right, so maybe I'd like to maybe turn it a little bit to Elena. So can you tell us what DukeEngage programs you have been on as a site coordinator?
Yes, so each DukeEngage program has what we call a site coordinator, and a site coordinator is someone who is with the students 24/7, running the logistics of the program and making sure it could be everything from kind of RA responsibilities, health and safety, which are two of the most important things for the program. We want the students to be healthy and safe during the whole 8-week experience and make it back to their hometown at the end. And so I worked 2 programs. One summer, I worked a DukeEngage in Brazil, and another summer I worked a DukeEngage in Uganda. And both of those were amazing experiences and really formed a family with the whole group of students and community partners. Is there a specific question you would like me to address?
Maybe
on?
can you talk a little, so we've been talking, Emily and I have done a lot of work in Latin America. Can you talk a little bit about what was amazing about Uganda and kind of, it's one of the options for this summer. So,
Yes.
so parents who might be like, oh, this sounds like something my kid would want to do. Just, can you talk a little bit about who led it, kind of the logic of the program?
Yes, so the DukeEngage in Uganda is a biomedical engineering program. Not every student on the program is a biomedical major at Duke.
So they don't have to be biomed majors to be in this program.
No.
Okay.
Typically, most of the students are engineering students, but different aspects of engineering. There might be a mechanical engineer, a biomedical engineer, etc. And my favorite thing about this program was that it partners with students from Makerere University, which is one of the biggest universities in Kampala, Uganda. And so it's half Ugandan students, half Duke students, and they're paired in engineering project design groups. They live together 24/7, work together. And so my favorite part was just seeing all of the relationships formed with the students who attended the Ugandan university, with our Duke students, and just how all of them became this big family all summer. There were many tears shed when everyone was leaving, so that can just tell you how much it impacted each and every student on the trip. Also, my favorite thing about all the DukeEngage program is the main purpose of community partnership. Every student is working with a community partner in each location related in different themes. Christine mentioned some of the things of some of the programs. So for example, you might have immigration policy in Miami, you might be working with youth and development in Boston or Korea, etc. And so the main focus is immersion with community partners, and seeing those relationships form is my personal favorite part of DukeEngage.
So maybe to pick up that thread, I think one of the things that I have that I saw on the ground in our work. So we bring students to Paraguay to work on energy policy in a country that has unequal access to economic resources. And so what we've done is we've put students at this question of how might Paraguay use its resources to jumpstart sustainable development. And so what we do is we've connected students to community partners, some some for-profit, some connected to government, working in offices on, well, whatever the organization needs. So one summer I had a student who he traveled to Paraguay in 2022. His luggage still has not arrived. And he worked with an NGO that runs a nature preserve and works on sustainable business. And so he was working on their sustainable, their circular economy. They were opening a new circular economy wing. And what he did is he ended up spending time programming copying phone numbers from one cell phone to another person to another cell phone for somebody who's was like a director in this role. And so it felt like, maybe not the most glamorous thing, but it was super useful work. And he saw towards the end of his engagement how this person who is a director in this new role, who wanted to find ways to start businesses in Paraguay that could bring valuable jobs to people, but also produce products that have a small environmental footprint. He saw how his work was actually really practical in supporting the work of the organization. One of the things I've really loved is so we send our students to working around research issues as well, in terms of energy options for the country, or potentially sustainable ventures. And one of the things I've loved is that we also often have the opportunity for our students to speak on the national media in Paraguay. So there's this expectation that these Duke students come and throughout the course of a summer become so familiar with the part of the country that they're working in, that they actually get to reflect back on that to the larger public. So when we say that these students have a connection with the community, one of the things that you might notice is that a lot of programs attract attention. Why? Because many places might send students for like 2 weeks or something like that, but 8 weeks is a lot. And so our students do make genuine connections. Now, I see that there are questions in the chat. And so I there's a Q&A section, but people started in the chat, which is also okay. So maybe we can start answering some of these. So yes, so David, you asked, is there a list of DukeEngage programs? I put it in the chat. I'm going to type it again, the link, so you all can see. So there we go there. So are all the DukeEngage programs expected to run this summer? The ones that we have listed there? Sure. Yes. So because we're sending students out to the real world, there are pivots that have to happen. And so that should not be a surprise. But we are committed to the programs that we have put out there. Every single program this summer is led by, so all the programs are led by faculty members. So people who have longstanding relationships with the community, with the issues, with the partners, etc. But this, and often we offer new programs. So there's always movement on and off of the slate of options. This summer, all of the programs are run by people who are seasoned DukeEngage program directors. So just so you know that they are they have a lot of experience in what they're doing. So how often do first years do it? I would say maybe people are open to participate for 3 summers after their first year, after their second, after their third year. Those who are applying as juniors bring something different to the table. They have more experience under their belt, right? So they have more class experience. So sometimes that is really, really quite useful in terms of the subject matter. But then we also have students like Emily who did it after her first year of college, and it shaped the courses and the major and the thesis that she then did. And so, okay, so Glenn, to your question around Uganda and Bolivia. So Elena, can you maybe take that?
Yes, I'm quite familiar with the Uganda, Bolivia, and Asheville. Bolivia and Asheville are similar type programs where will be building bridges, just in 2 different areas of the world. The Bolivia and Asheville definitely have roles for non-engineers. Last year we had 2 programs that were similar to the Bolivian Asheville, led by the same program director, and there were a handful of non-engineers in the group. And I remember some of the engineering students telling me, oh, this other student, he's the best engineer we have, and he's not even an engineer. So there's definitely roles. I think one person was a statistics major, one person was an environmental major. So those are pretty open to non-majors. It's just more if you're interested and maybe you like building things or have maybe Habitat for Humanity in high school or something like that. So I definitely recommend applying, even if it does not go with your major, because it is an opportunity for all the programs to explore one of your interests that you would not have been able to otherwise because you are in your academic career. Also for Uganda, typically all the students are engineering students because it is a structured engineering design project. However, if someone does have that skill set and they're not studying engineering, I still recommend to apply because that could be a very unique perspective for the program.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So one of the questions is, since students can only apply to one program, can they find which programs may have open seats afterwards in case they didn't get into all of that kind of stuff? Is stuff that the staff in the office maybe take into consideration. Let me give you the timeline. So the programs opened for the application period opened on September 30th. So students have had a month, and there have been presentations from every single program director. Actually, often our program directors maybe sometimes give more than one presentation, where what they do is they open up time where they explain what the program is going to be, and students can come and learn, et cetera, et cetera. And so the application window closes tomorrow, and it does close. And so sometimes students are like, no, I wanted to apply. But one of the things that's really important about DukeEngage is that we send students into the world. And it's actually things like showing up to work at, well, in Latin America, the workday starts very early because where we take students, it's generally quite hot. So the workday starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so students, the sort of the responsibility to show up and do it, et cetera, is kind of part of the culture that we want to teach there, that this is an amazing opportunity for the students. But what's even more important is what the students are doing with the communities. So the application window closes tomorrow. Students will apply to one program. And then the program directors will get their roster of applicants, and we'll decide how they want to make the evaluations. Because we have our world-class faculty leading these teams, they have an incredible amount of discretion as they think about how to build the best team that will make the most impact for the team and for the communities that they work with. They generally are notified by the end of November. I think end of November is when they get their invitation on whether they were accepted, whether they're waitlisted, or whether their application was not successful that time. Then they make a commitment. So then there's a bunch of paperwork, which you would also see. And they make a commitment by the end of December. And then spring semester is all prep. Both team building, there's a DukeEngage Academy. Some of our programs have courses that students are supposed to take as part of the ramp up. So the spring semester is all vaccines, plane tickets, visas, passports, all those kinds of things get set up in the spring semester. And then the programs start in May. Some of them start in May, some of them start in June. So there's that. So how many times can a student participate? Only once. Because it's a fully funded summer experience. We want to make it open to as many as possible students during their Duke journey. So yeah, students can only do it once.
Yes, and to add on to that, the reason Emily was talking about her second summer was because we have programs for DukeEngage alumni that are independent projects that they are eligible to apply for after they have completed a DukeEngage group program summer, which is what we're mainly focusing on today. So if you're interested in looking at that, you can look on our website through that link that we sent and look under our different programs that you can see what we offer.
Yeah, thank you. So Divya, you asked how much prior experience in politics. That's something that your daughter should totally reach out to the program director to ask that question. So the person who runs that program, Eric Malin, has been working in the space of politics and political discourse for decades. So my gut tells me that they will have a range of students. But that would be a person who, that would be the right person to direct that question to. I see there's some questions in the Q&A as well. So
I
yeah,
can take the first one there.
Yeah.
That's easier. Okay, so first question, will every applicant have the opportunity to interview? So this is always an interesting aspect. The program directors have full control of what they want their interview process to look like, if they have one, if they don't. Some program directors will have interviews for their students, some will not. So someone who applied to, I'm just throwing these out there, it's not necessarily what the program director is going to do. Say DukeEngage Uganda invited a student for an interview, but someone who applied to DukeEngage Boston didn't get an interview. That doesn't mean anything. It just means the program director does the interview or the acceptance process a little differently. So it really depends. And if the student's curious if there is an interview process, they should reach out to the program director of that specific program. Another question is, how sought after is the Durham program that is returning this year? It is community health focused, and I would say all of our programs are pretty sought after because every student has different interests. So students with particular interests will be applying to different programs. And then DukeEngage experience, please comment on the DukeEngage experience in South Africa. That is a very established program as well. All the students tend to love that program. All the students tend to love every program, so it's hard to specifically comment.
Can I step in and talk a little bit about the South Africa program? So DukeEngage South Africa right now is headed by Anne Maria Makudu. Anne Maria Makudu's father was an archbishop in South Africa who worked closely with Desmond Tutu. So she is and she was, you know, you can learn more about her biography. She's in the Department of Culture Anthropology. There, you know, she, her story is one that would be sort of highlights the complexity of the South African experience. So Dr. Makudu has worked for decades on research in apartheid and post-apartheid South Africa. This is the person who is working with students on issues of memory, transitional justice, land rights, and especially the education system. So just to give a sense of you know, who is working with the students, this is the kind of access students get in terms of faculty. So I'm not sure what all the questions are about the DukeEngage South Africa program, but I just wanted to give a sense of, you know, who is like on whose research agenda these students are coming. So I think it's a quite amazing opportunity. So
yeah. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, it would be really amazing to work with all of these professors. Next question is, how large are the teams? We typically take between 8 to 14 or 8 to 12 students in each program. The program directors decide how many spots there are within that number based on how many community partners that they're working with and how many spots that they're able to give the students full-time work and to really immerse them in the community partnership. So minimum this summer will be 8 students per program. Next question is, how many students participate in DukeEngage each year? This year we have 16 programs, 8 to 12 students per programs. So it will be within that number. So maybe average 160 students this summer. And that's the last question.
Yeah. I see Renee, you've raised your hand. But I don't know if that question has gone into the chat. So maybe you're welcome to put it in the chat or the Q&A. Maybe Emily, can I ask, let's turn a question to you. So 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 you've got, like, you've seen students do programs in other parts of the world, etc. Kind of like, what are the advantages to doing a program that has very little to do with your major? Like, why might a student want to do DukeEngage? Maybe what are some pragmatic skills that, in addition to, you know, meal planning, which is a big one, like that you think students would get out of, and that you have maybe seen in your peer group, or stuff that you actually saw in South America?
That's a really good question. I actually just had a conversation with the student about their Brazil program, and it was based around capoeira, a dance style there, and she was telling me how beautiful it was to just like talk to the students and see the progression of like their interest. And it was a tutoring program, so like they would start out and be like, "Oh, I'm not too interested," and then by the end, just like the beauty of forming community with them. And I think that's really what's special, even if it's not related to your major. I feel like having that sense of relationship building is really important, which Elena and Professor Fulch have both touched on. And I think also, in terms of practical skills, just being really flexible. And I think that's something that Paraguay really taught me. And like hearing from other students that have done programs in Africa, and also other South American programs. I think it teaches you to be super flexible because I think as a Duke student, a lot of us tend to be very type A, like, okay, have to go from this, like it's a timestamp thing. So it's like you go from this activity to this other activity, but that's not how life always works. And I feel like DukeEngage really brings that to practice because you just have to sometimes do things on the fly, or like we would get a WhatsApp message and be like, okay, we have to do this activity in a few hours, or we were invited to this event tomorrow, be ready. So it teaches you, yeah, how to be flexible, how to be like resilient to different situations. And even I remember when we were invited to be on the news segment, and we were all like, what do you mean we're gonna be on the news? Like we were all really like scared, and it was like a daunting task, and it was scary at first, I will say. And I think I tend to be a little shy, so I feel like I was like very intimidated by the fact we were going to be on the news. But I think you did a super like good job of preparing us and being like, okay, like let's set some bullet points for things you're going to say. And we all felt super prepared and super proud of ourselves after. So yeah, I think it teaches you a lot of just like life skills in general that I feel like other programs or other internships that you wouldn't get that from other experiences. And I think it's a super special program. And even today, like when I meet with other people from the program, there's three of us left now. The others have graduated. We're always like reminiscing on Paraguay, the other college students we met. We got to meet a lot of other college students. And it's just a really beautiful experience. Yeah.
I think maybe can I just ask a question? So
Yeah.
you're working on your thesis. You're working on a thesis now. How is your ability to work on your thesis connected to your DukeEngage summer?
Oh, it's very directly related. So when I came into the DukeEngage program, I was just thinking about environment. I was like, okay, sustainable development, like super cool. And I wasn't thinking about human rights at all. And I think that's something that the program really spun on its head, like thinking about not just like these larger systems of how to make the world more sustainable, but thinking about day-to-day issues and practical problems. So thinking like we can't have just a statement, we can't have sustainable development without human rights is something that has stuck with me. Ever since then, I've just had that like reminiscing in my head, and I think that's what really led to my interest in thinking about transitional justice, post-dictatorship societies in Latin America. And right now I'm doing a project for my international comparative studies major about what it means for a memory and human rights museum to exist in my home country of Dominican Republic, and what that means for us for memory, for truth, and justice. And I think I wouldn't have even thought of those concepts if it wasn't for my DukeEngage in Paraguay. And I think it also really it motivated me to also pursue study abroad in Latin America. So then I went on to do my study abroad in Chile and also think about these concepts of human rights and like asking questions that go beyond just like a lot of the things that you learn or a lot of the theory that you learn. So yeah. Yeah.
So one of my favorite things about, I come to this as a faculty member primarily. And one of the things I've really enjoyed is watching from our first DukeEngage program, which was in 2020, which was interrupted a bit by the COVID pandemic, but actually we ended up doing a virtual research project, our team in 2020, same thing in 2021, got to take students in 22, et cetera, is seeing the number of theses that have come out of our DukeEngage Paraguay program. So students who either end up doing award-winning theses on Paraguay or take some of the practical research skills that they learned on the field and apply it to a different opportunity. We have students getting Fulbrights almost every single year. And so there are or other similar awards. So we are very connected with the students who worked in our site, and it has a really practical impact long term in terms of skills, in terms of research, and in terms of other postgraduate opportunities. So Renee, I see your question. I see that Elena is typing an answer. So Elena will help you. Will sort of give some ideas for how somebody might do a program in their own community that might be a follow-up summer opportunity. We have these individual fellowships called Broadhead and Caminata that are more focused on individual projects in individual communities. But yeah. Oh, Emily, you've got a question. So this is
Yes,
important.
Emily. Can you talk about how much mentorship you've received while in your program?
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah. I remember when we first started out, I feel like it was more like learning the context of Paraguay, learning the historical, the legal, environmental, all of that. So we took time in the first 2 weeks, I think, just to like sit down at the dinner table in Peoga, which is Guarani for a boys' house, I think, right? But so we took time to just learn about where we were, why we were there, different opportunities. So I think, yeah, the first couple of weeks were more mentorship based, but then it was more like independent internships. And we still did check-ins with Christine and our site coordinator, Juan Carlos, how things were going. But it felt like it was a good mix of a little bit of like hand holding, like, okay, here you are in Paraguay, like, let's learn about why we're here, where we are. But then it was like, okay, now you're in Paraguay and you have your internship placements, like immerse yourselves in the communities. And we would still have like cohort dinners every so often too to check in and see how everything was going. But I felt really supported throughout the process too. It wasn't like we were also, when I say independent, it's not that we were like completely on our own. But yeah, but it was a really good, like I felt really supported throughout, and we could always text our site coordinator and Christine, our director, if anything, we were always like in contact with them. But yeah, it was a super good format.
So we have an anonymous about the living conditions for the Bolivia program. Yeah, that is absolutely something that the program director is the right person to ask and answer.
I think,
Yeah. So
also, if you have specific housing, transportation, logistical questions, if you look on the website and the link that we sent earlier in the chat, if you click on each program, they each have what the living conditions, transportation, all of those logistics will look like. So you can do that and reach out, like Dr. Fulch said, to the program director.
Divya, you raised a question in the chat. I understand they can only do this once for equal opportunity for everyone, but can one apply more than once if one doesn't get through? Yes. So I want to tell you a story of a student who applied for, we had students apply for 2021 who were not accepted, and who then applied for 22 and got in and went. Had a student who applied for 22, but we only had a limited number of spots. We wanted something like 8 or 9 spots, and we had to turn students away. And there was one student who, it was really challenging. She was a first year student, and she was really smart and really bright, and very motivated. And there were students who were rising seniors who were also really strong candidates. And it was very difficult to make a decision because we wanted to make this open for people who were seniors and wouldn't have another opportunity to go. So we put her on the wait list, and everybody who we offered a spot to accepted. So she was not able to go. She applied her sophomore year, and she was the first person we let in. Why? Because she was committed. And so I just want to say, like, if a student doesn't make it the first time, that's not a permanent, that there's, it's very hard to know just kind of how the luck of the draw happened. And so, yes, so some of our very best students have been these students who show how much gumption they have and how much commitment they have. So Divya, yes, they can apply more than once. Yeah. All right. I think that's it in terms of the questions. So Justin, we will yield the floor to you. Thank you all very much, family members, for showing up to this conversation.
Great. Excuse me. Sorry. Great. Thank you so much, team. I really appreciate it. This was phenomenal. As always, families, this is being recorded. All right. I will not have it on the website in 30 minutes. So give me 2 days, 2 business days to get everything translated and onto our website. But you all will be notified when this is up. But again, thank you all so much. If y'all have any questions, you can always reach out to us at familyprograms@duke.edu, and we will be sure to get you to the right place. All right. Well, thank y'all so much, and y'all have a
Thank you.
great
Have a
rest of
wonderful
y'all's
night. Take
Wednesday.
care. Mhm.
Bye,
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks.